It's no big deal. He absolutely loves it and just talks about it.
Okay, so I think this is a question about the cold and like whether people care about it or don't care about it.
Only me. No, it was good to experience just what the weather would be like, very similar to how the weather would be in Baltimore. But again, as I said yesterday, it's what an opportunity we have, before us, and I don't think our guys will be worried about weather, and that won't be an issue, right? It's one of those things where, of course, you embrace the suck and you move on, right? And just go attack it with everything you have. Don't worry about the weather or worry about executing and playing good football.
Embrace the suck. I do love that mantra. That's a kind of a very special ops military mantra, except that the only thing with embrace the suck is that I think it only works for people that are like kind of wired to embrace the suck. There's not it's really hard to tell somebody who doesn't like almost like genetically embrace the suck to embrace the suck because they're not buying it. So I think the key is getting a bunch of guys on your team that do embrace the suck. And the other part of it is it's really not going to suck that much. Right now, the forecast is 29 degrees in Baltimore. Today, and it felt I've gotten so soft. It felt colder than 29, but I think it was 29. It was it's so terrifying driving on these roads, not because it's only on the overpasses and everything and it's bad. And I don't worry about it myself personally. It's when you see somebody coming up flying behind you in a rear wheel drive car going 80 and you're just like, "Oh, we're coming up on a curve, man. Why are you doing this?" But anyway, I think the players were like it's not going to be windy. It's not going to be rainy. It's not going to be like the worst is freezing rain or wintry mix. Those are the worst for football. I think it's going to be pretty nice, actually. It's nice. You can actually enjoy, like, you don't get that exhausted feeling when you're running around in the cold like that.
Any small things you do in practice, like coaches have soaked footballs for rain games or anything like that, or is it just it takes care of itself?
No, it takes care of itself in my mind.
Where have you seen the Ravens probably grow most since when you look at them from the first year to now?
For the Ravens, I feel like they've grown throughout the season as an offense.
Okay, so the question was, what have you seen the Ravens since week one? Where remember, Todd Monken was a new offensive coordinator by way of Georgia, good amount of success, and Lamar had only ever had Greg Roman since his rookie year, and so since he had been a full-time starter, Greg Roman was his offensive coordinator, and it seemed like for like 3 or 4 years, it seemed like almost immediately after the MVP season, there was constant debate and question as to whether Greg Roman should be replaced or not. So they finally did it this year, and he has been a different quarterback.
I feel like they're much more efficient. Lamar is playing exceptional football, MVP caliber football. He's doing a really good job of, not only running the ball or creating off-schedule plays, but getting the ball to his playmakers. Zay Flowers truly pops off the tape with his explosiveness, his dynamic playmaking ability. He's a problem in the open field with the ball in his hand. So we have to do a really good job of tackling in space. It's going to be huge in this game, right? Not just one guy being at the ball, but got to have multiple guys around him because he's such a dynamic player.
I got to look up number of explosive plays because I'm interested. The sense I get from having watched the Ravens this season, I gotta watch a bunch more this week, is almost that it's more of a grind you down affair, like a steady, methodical march down the field. You look at Zay Flowers, and he's averaging 11 yards per catch. It's not like he's, taking the tops off of defenses or anything. But I think some of that is that, like, they're very, because they can attack you on the ground, because the quarterback can run, because they can throw to the tight ends so much that teams are going to try to, they got to keep the top on everything and then come up and tackle. It's just that. And sometimes against most teams, what the thinking is like, well, okay, eventually they'll crap out. But the Ravens just don't tend to crap out. They don't tend to make those mistakes. They're just kind of methodically machine-like in that regard. That's what they've turned into. They didn't look like that in week one. Lamar was still getting his feet underneath him. That first, somebody asked that question about how they were supposed to be more of a passing team. Week one, Lamar only ran 6 times. And then the next couple weeks, he was in like the double digits for both those weeks. So, and then he came back down, and now it feels more like he's just he's running when he should run because he's a freak of an athlete. He's not as athletic as before the injuries. So he's slightly less athletic, which still makes him the most athletic quarterback in the NFL. So he's less athletic now, and he's only by a lesser margin the most athletic quarterback in the NFL.
Where has CJ grown the most in your eyes from week one when he played the Ravens and now going into this next week against the Ravens?
With CJ, where his growth is shown the most to me is just, I would say, his calm and his confidence, right? And he's looking back at the Ravens game, made some big-time plays for us in that game as well. So, I mean, he's been the same player, but I think just his demeanor and how he's grown as a leader has really, really stepped up, right, big time for us. And when we need him most, I feel like just throughout the entire season now at this moment, like he's the leader that we need him to be. He's the player that we need him to be. His demeanor, right, on the field, off the field is exactly what you want out of a starting quarterback.
So I think that goes along with what the hell's going on here?
Important would it be to get the running game established early?
At the pinwheel
We're
of
always
death.
looking to get the running game established. This is a tough output to run the ball against. They do a really good job up front with their interior defensive linemen of really eating up a lot of space. So it's going to be tough to run the ball. But everything you get versus this defense is going to be earned. Right? They've done an outstanding job throughout the entire year. Talk about a consistent defense. They've been top all year in a ton of categories, but really great playmakers at the second level, and they do a really good job up front of making you, like I said, earn everything that you get.
I'm sorry, DeMeco. I don't mean to have balloons when you're talking about earning things. I think I made that I think that was the quote I used for the thumbnail here. Earning it. They do make you earn everything. And it's like McDonald, the defensive coordinator, he's a head coach candidate. Bobby Slowick, head coach candidate. Two forces colliding. Bobby Slowick got a whole lot of airtime on the TV broadcast in the third quarter, especially last week. I was not happy about that. My biggest fear about all of that is this. I think CJ is going to be a good quarterback no matter what. However, these first 2 years, these critical stages of his development, I would really, really, really love him to have consistency. And like the analogy I used on the drive with Clinton and Ron, earlier was like if you had a baby, if you had a preemie and it was in an incubator and the baby's doing all right, vitals are good, it's growing, but it still needs to be the incubator. And the doctor comes in and is like, hey, by the way, we're just going to switch incubators, all right? Let's just try it on a new incubator. How do you feel about that? Like, fuck that. No. My baby's going to stay in the exact same incubator that's working for it. I don't care if there's like technological advances or anything. If it's working now, I want that incubator to stay the same. So right now, Gerard Johnson, Bill Lazor, Bobby Slowick, all these guys are a nice little incubator for our little preemie baby, CJ Stroud. And I want our preemie baby to grow up into a pudgy toddler. So like, let's keep the incubator the same. If Cal has to pay prorated whatever his salary would be this year, then so be it. It's just a matter of whether, I mean, I don't know. Maybe we start some internet rumors about Bobby Slowick. No, don't even say it. Don't do that. That'd be messed up. I played a false news report about, I don't know, Bobby was a communist in college or something like that. I don't know.
What's the balance of figuring out how to approach Lamar and maybe doing stuff that he's seen before or doing stuff that maybe is unique to your team or just kind of throwing things at him that maybe you're familiar to him that he's had lack of success against that maybe he's more ready for? What's kind of that balance of being ready for something?
Okay, so he's talking about, do you throw things at Lamar Jackson that perhaps he's struggled with in the past? Certain blitz packages is what I'm thinking specifically. And DeMeco, I think, has done an increasingly better job of mixing up and mixing in the blitz over the last couple weeks or several weeks. I think part of that is him getting to know his personnel. I think it's also like him getting to know Jalen Petrie specifically, because that's a tough one, right? I think the first half of this season, maybe the first 2/3 of this season, really maybe right up until the Colts game was the was it the Colts game where he struggled? No, it wasn't the Colts game. What the hell am I thinking? Blanking here. You guys will tell me. That it's like understanding what Jalen Petrie's strengths and weaknesses are and maybe what his natural temperament is. Like, I don't know if he has the temperament of a free safety, but he sure does have the temperament of a guy that's up around the line of scrimmage. He's not built like a box safety, and yet he has the temperament of it. It's like Tank Dell, kind of. That like the blitz, and their willingness to blitz, and some of the packages they can have might end up being one of the big differences in this game. Because it has been successful versus Lamar at times. It's not, you can't bank on it 100% of the time. It's got to be done right.
Yeah, you can throw as many things at Lamar as you want to, but he finds a way to make plays. That's what makes him a special player. No matter what type of looks he's gotten on tape, right? He's made a ton of teams pay because of just his playmaking ability, right? He's seen a lot, made a lot of plays, so it's going to be a challenge no matter what we present or what we throw at him.
Coach, can you talk about the challenge this time of year losing?
That was a much better answer than saying, like, yeah, we got a little secret for Lamar Jackson. He doesn't even know, but we got it. Why? Why would the balloons? Is somebody paying for that? I don't think I did anything on Twitter that allows that to. No, it's only coming up in my screen. God, it wasn't like we had 287 people. It wasn't like it changed all of a sudden.
Noah Brown, and then what Steven Sims might bring to the offensive side.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, so Noah Brown put on IR. Steven Sims brought back onto the roster. What can Steven Sims, the wide receiver, provide?
It's really tough losing Noah. Noah has been great for us all year. All right, when he's been there and been available, and Noah's made clutch plays and critical moments, big time plays. You talk about the Cincinnati game, the Tampa Bay game, those big games, those pivotal games that we won. That was because of Noah and the playmaking that he made for us. So it hurts losing Noah. We were really excited to get him back, but it's going to be tough. So we have to replace him. All right, somebody has to step up and be able to make those plays. We'll add Steven Sims to the roster, and Steve brings a dynamic ability in a return game, which I think that will help us this week. Also, just being able to utilize him on offense as well with his speed, his playmaking ability.
Yeah, and that's what I wondered. Just athletically, it might bring a different element. I think that some of the people, I think some people made too big a deal out of CJ versus man defense, man coverage, and CJ versus zone coverage last week. I think when you start to look at that stuff, you got to look at a couple things. One, the receivers themselves. And two, just like the specific matchups and teams that run a lot of man or zone. But having said that, I think that Sims, perhaps, especially without a lot of film on his route running or anything in this offense, you might be able to get him in some matchups, perhaps, where you can get him free. And that's something that somebody asked earlier if Steven Sims is going to break out this week. I don't know if he breaks out. I do think there's a potential with that speed that they get him behind the defense. They kind of sneak him out there, and you see a big hitter out of him. That would be a very, very nice thing if they're able to do that. It's not going to be easy. Ravens are a smart defense.
You look at their off-the-ball linebackers. You see many sets of where you have a player, a Roquan Smith caliber, and Patrick Queen, guys like that.
Yeah, Roquan.
He just asked about the Ravens off-ball linebackers.
Roquan and Patrick, they're a dynamic duo. You talk about Roquan he's just solid in every aspect of just being a true linebacker, right? Really taking on that role of Ray Lewis in that defense. I've always liked Roquan since he was at Georgia. Thought he was an exceptional playmaker, sideline to sideline linebacker, and plays a physical brand of football that kind of you start to miss it in the game. But Roquan, he plays physical sideline to sideline, so really pops off the tape. And then you have Patrick, right? He's another guy who can. I mean, you talk about covering, you talk about covering up grass. Like, he can run all across the field, and he can make plays as well. So, they do a really good job playing off of each other. And I think Mike has done a great job putting them in position to make plays.
It's funny that off-ball linebacker had kind of been marginalized for a long time, and like in a 3-4, like Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen are never going to be the kinds like old school inside linebackers where guys look like defensive ends necessarily. So they do have to be more athletic now. But when you do have those guys, like the Ravens with Roquan Smith, once Roquan came in there, all of a sudden they looked like a Ravens defense again. So the Texans, I think, likewise, are a defense that ideally they need to revolve around those linebackers. That's what worked for DeMeco in San Francisco. When you have guys that have come up and be just just sons of bitches versus the run, but can also drop into coverage. They can kind of expand that bubble around them. It makes it easier for the back end and makes it easier for the front end. That's when the really good stuff can start happening. In the Ravens, in a lot of ways, with those two guys, like they're like new age old school, and it's a big part of it. But obviously, they've got their outside linebackers are more the edge guys types.
Hey, Coach, what do you feel you and your coaching staff has grown since week one, the first game against the Ravens all
Yeah, with our coaching staff, I feel like everybody is excited.
Since we're on the talk of the defensive line, Jadeveon Clowney is having a very good year. And earlier today, we were talking about this with Ross Tucker. So Ross Tucker is going to be broadcasting this game. I think he's doing the sideline commentary for this game. And I think I got distracted by a text from Paul Gallant. Sorry. Yeah, so what was I talking about? God damn it. Excuse my language. Linebackers. Somebody remind me. Linebackers. Oh, Jadeveon Clowney. So Ross Tucker was saying that Jadeveon Clowney is having the best year of his career. And I said, no, this is actually what Jadeveon was like back in like 2000, maybe 14, 15, 16, whatever it was that he was really like, he was getting 9.5 sacks a year, 20 plus tackles for a loss. He was just an absolute demon versus the run. He won a lot of pass rush downs. He gets really stiff when it comes time to actually get the quarterback on the ground. That's what he's playing like right now, like he did in that 3-year period where he was really, really good for the Texans. He had those first 2 years where he was injured a lot and kind of just wasn't quite looking like a great player at all. And then he went on a tear. But he was just never that number one overall kind of bling. And the problem is Khalil Mack was drafted 5 spots after him, and he did have that bling. So now, without having the pressure or stigma of that number one overall pick, I think people in Baltimore are really happy about Jadeveon Clowney. Although the Texans did a pretty good job limiting him in that first game.
Excited that first game, so everybody's really trying to feel each other out. You don't quite know how guys are going to be on game day, but I feel like as a coaching staff, we've really grown just in our communication and how we operate on game day. I feel like we're much more efficient right now and not overly, excited when things happen or, hey, this is a penalty. Like everybody's kind of more calm. Everybody understands what to expect on game day. We've grown in the aspect of just working with each other and working off of each other really well.
Yeah, that first game, they burnt all their timeouts in the first half. A lot of that was on Slowick and the offense. And like he had a rookie quarterback. It's not his fault, but Bobby admitted as much that like he had too many new guys trying to do all these things. All this pre-snap motion that we see now, where like Nico Collins freed himself up with some pre-snap motion on that touchdown. That was they were trying to implement all of that in week one, and I put that also on DeMeco, and I think DeMeco would agree. As the head coach, DeMeco might be the defensive minded, de facto defensive coordinator of this team, but as the head coach, he needs to be sure that he's got that oversight over the offensive coordinator who's a first-time offensive coordinator and know that this is what coordinators do all the time in their first year. Mike Vrabel did it with the Texans defense when he was a first-time defensive coordinator. That first game, they think they're going to install everything. Like they want to do everything. Every brilliant idea that they've been writing in their little Henry Winkler notebook for years and years and years, they want to put it out there. The world's got to see what we're about to unleash on them. And it doesn't go that well. You're trying too hard. So everybody does it in every area of life. You just try way too hard that first go at it.
It seems like ever since you stepped on the field here as a rookie, you had this aggressive, relentless mindset, and now it looks like your team here has taken on that kind of persona. How are you able to instill your kind of feelings and aggressiveness to your team?
So she asked, how have you been able to instill your aggressiveness, I guess, as a player to your team, or his attitude as a play caller, perhaps?
For me, I always want the team to just play football how I see football, right? How I think it should be played. And I think football should be played with passion. I think it should be played with energy. And I think, like, when you get the opportunity to do it, you should give everything you have to the game. because you don't know when your last play will be, right? You don't know when it's your last season. So it's just about just selling out all the efforts you can possibly give. You do that, right? And you take advantage of each and every.
All right. I don't know what happened there. I was trying to figure out what was going on with those balloons, and there they were.
With Stingley and the things that impress.
Okay. So I still don't know what happened with the balloons. Um, the I stabbed the place at random in the DeMeco presser. I don't know if we missed a question or two, but this seems to be where we were past that. I couldn't figure out the source of the balloons, except it booted all of us off here. I can't believe you guys are all still here when I got back. Thank you for not leaving for Mr. Beast. I know that's my main competitor.
It starts back in I think in the off season when I first got the job here, it was just he was one of the guys who was here working, right? When it's quiet in February, he was the one guy who was here putting in work with our strength and conditioning staff, right? And he was putting himself in position to have a really good season, right? Physically, he was in shape. He was ready to go. And throughout the entire year, right, what's impressed me is just his confidence and his playmaking ability continues to shine. He continues to step up in the big moments, and he's gotten better with the more reps that he's gotten. He's gotten better and shown like why he was drafted where he was drafted, because he's a top talent in the NFL, and he's proven that over these past few weeks. He's proven that he's a top corner in his league.
Okay, I get really excited about Stingley, and I was the first person to say, like, if he hadn't gotten healthy, there was no reason to be optimistic about him. Because it was 2019 the last time he was like healthy and available in a football game. Sorry, I shouldn't say in a football game, when he looked like a guy that should be a top 2 pick in the draft. So that part of it was frustrating. But then, like, in hindsight, where I should have been more patient, though, too, was the fact that Lovie Smith, it felt like with Lovie, Derek made a lot of progress early and they put a lot on him. And then all of a sudden, it's just like they just stopped asking anything of him. And he turned into a cover 2 corner. It's like, okay, you should like he should have been playing in Tampa in the 1990s or something. It turned him into Rondé Barber. And that's not who he's meant to be. He's which Rondé Barber's a Hall of Famer, don't get me wrong, but that's not who Derek Stingley is meant to be. Derek Stingley is meant to do all the things that he's been doing right now. So, like, thank God they hired DeMeco, and thank God that they're utilizing him. And especially, I defended the Texans not having him travel with Amari Cooper, because I felt like, okay, it seems like they just really want to take it slow with him. But man, they chose the right time to do it, because that was a huge key in that game. Obviously, was him traveling with Amari Cooper 80% of the snaps, and Amari Cooper largely being shut down in that game. I guess you could argue that maybe they should have done a little bit sooner, but whatever.
Close with Aaron and Sarge. So about Derek Stingley, he's a man of action. I love having a lot of words, but what do you like about that? A guy that just sort of does not talk, and also for you to decide to have him shadow when that hasn't been your tendency in the past. Does it seem like it was clever?
Yeah, with Stingley, everybody's different. Everybody shows their personality different. Stingley doesn't say much, but his play speaks very loud for him, right? And I know his peers around the league see that, and they understand the type of player that he is. You don't have to talk much when your tape does the talking for you. There's not much to say. You don't have to be a trash talker or anything. He just goes out. He plays the game the right way. He's been playing with great technique, great fundamentals, eyes, attacking the football, really doing everything that we asked him to do. And he was up for the challenge last week, and he did a really good job for what we asked him to do going against Amari. So really proud of him and what he accomplished in that game and what he showed.
I'm going to Google the hell out of this when we're done, because I don't know why the balloons are coming more. If I activated something on YouTube and that allows you guys to now send me balloons, then I'm going to be super happy about it. I just hope you're not spending that. I hope you're not spending that much money. How are you doing this? It's not my birthday. As far as Stingley goes, Stingley Stingley is really like I don't want to say a unique personality, but when it comes to dealing with the media and everything, I think that's not his thing, and he's not totally about it. Like he doesn't run his own Twitter account; he has somebody else do it. He's definitely never going to be one of these people that's out there interacting a whole bunch. I don't think on social media. He just wants to work at his craft, and like that part of it's kind of cool in a way that he almost almost like he's like a defensive back version of a computer program who would rather just like sit there be working like programming for 18 hours a day, and that's what makes him happy. You see him before practice, after practice, out there just grabbing guys and working with them, working on releases and everything. That part of it's the part that's really, really cool. It's just the physical longevity part of it is the only thing I would worry about, and so far, knock on wood, so good.
Question one, sorry. Coach, there's a viral video going around when I think it was like Coach JJ's last game. He was in Arizona,
Okay.
and you two met on the field. He told you, "Go make Houston great again." In the back of your mind, did you have that in the back of your mind? And when you got here, did you remember him telling you that?
Okay, so the question from Sarge was last year, the final game of the year was the Cardinals versus the 49ers, and JJ Watt approached DeMeco after the game, hugged him, and said, "Hey, go make Houston great again." And it went viral this weekend. I think it was on Inside the NFL on Showtime. You'll be able to see the watermark. I've got the video here. Just wanted to set it up for you. This is what Sarge was asking about.
Oh, how are you, Cap? Congrats, baby. Congrats on a great career, man. All right, you're the best, baby. You're the best. Go make Houston great again. We'll do it. Go make Houston great again. Yeah, I love you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you, man.
Yeah, so that was, remember, that was before Lovey would have even been fired. That was before anybody knew that DeMeco was going to be asked for an interview and be interested, because there were reports that there was a report that he might not be interested in the job. So do we owe it to JJ for planting the seed in DeMeco's mind? I don't know. Let's hear from DeMeco.
I did not remember him telling me that. But I mean, JJ, I think that game there was cool moment for me. I was able to be here with JJ in his first game, and then be on the sideline as a coach to see him play his last game. And man, he had a really good game versus, I think he ended up with like 2 sacks. It just shows JJ is just an unbelievable player. And I'm thankful to call JJ a friend, right? Thankful to have played with him. Truly great player, Hall of Fame talent. To be able to play with a guy like that, man, I'm thankful for that moment to share with JJ. Haven't seen the video. Not sure what I said in the video, but hopefully everything worked out. Just it was good. All right.
I'd be nervous, man. I don't know. He said what he said will do or whatever. That's one of those things you just say. It's just a knee-jerk response. Like when somebody says, what's the big one? When somebody like a waiter says, "Hope you enjoy your meal," and you say, "You too," that type of thing. Because remember, he wouldn't have even interviewed at that point. That was the end of the regular season. So he wouldn't interview with the Texans until a couple weeks later via Zoom, or a week later via Zoom, whenever the initial interview was before they went dark again.
Do you think that you haven't made, but you're making Houston great again?
So do you think you're making Houston great again?
I think when I took over the job here, one thing I wanted to just instill in the entire city was pride back into our team here, right? So I want people around the city to be proud of the Texans, right? Be able to wear their Texans gear and wear it proud. So I'm starting to see a lot of Texans gear around the city. Starting to see a lot of smiles. We go out to restaurants. A lot of people are excited about the Texans and what the men in this locker room have did on the field, right, to get the city excited about the Texans again. And that's what it's all about. Our guys have done a tremendous job of regaining that respect, regaining that pride in our team, and that's one thing I wanted to do when I took over here.
The last one. Well, there's another video, and it's you.
Uh-oh.
Talk about being able to share that with the kids. You're probably old enough.
Oh, I should have brought this one up. This is Kim Davis asking about the video of him and his kids after last week's game, which was super cute.
Oh,
So JJ, his kids come out, 2 boys and a girl, I believe. His 2 sons and his daughter come out and give him a big hug. They're all very, very young.
yeah. I mean, coming up that tunnel after the game, after the win versus Cleveland, that was a very special moment for me to be able to share that with my kids. I wasn't expecting them to be there. It's the first time they were there after a game, so it was very surprised me, caught me off guard. But it was that, man, wow, such a exciting surprise to see them there. Really just warmed my heart. It was a special moment for us to get the first playoff win here as the head coach, and to see my family there in the tunnel. They mean everything to me. Their support, their sacrifice, and my wife has allowed me to be in this position and do the work, spend the hours that I spend being here. But to see them and to share that moment with them was one I always remember.
You know, that's one big thing about DeMeco's wife being from Houston. That's another little added benefit, I think, that like, okay, I don't want to talk too much about coaches' personal lives or anything, but just in general, because I don't know anything, it's just in general, it's really nice to have help when you're a young family. And like a lot of times with coaches, especially, you're off in a city where you have zero family, maybe no other friends other than people on the football team. And it's a lot different than being able to have the kids go to grandma's house every day. And like that part of it, you talk about like work-life balance and everything. Like that's something that wears on coaches' families, which then also, it has no, it's gonna ebb over into people's lives. That level of stress that it takes to work the kind of hours they do and everything. It allays it a little bit, I think. Now, like the vast majority of the time, and with all the assistant coaches and everything, they still have to deal with that. But it's really cool that DeMeco's kids get to be around family. It's selfishly for me. It's great for him and everything. Most important, it's good for my football team.